seeing so much wokeness pushed in our public schools across the nation right now. And a lot of it is very intentional, and some of it is coming from large corporations located right here in Arkansas. Recently, the Washington Free Beacon reported that Walmart right here in Northwest Arkansas is pushing DEI training in our Arkansas schools. Aaron Sibarium joins us now. He writes for the Washington Free Beacon. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us on Conduit. I want to talk to you about this report that you released with the Washington Free Beacon. It talks about Walmart intentionally pushing DEI training in our schools. Talk to us about this and how this report came about.
Yeah, so I got a number of FOIA documents from Arkansas Public Schools documenting the degree to which Walmart and kind of Walmart funded or affiliated programs had infiltrated teacher trainings and other aspects of the education system. What the report essentially shows is that a very large, powerful corporation is laundering its ideology as a kind of noblesse oblige, right? As you know, in Northwest Arkansas, Walmart is kind of the top philanthropic powerhouse. In general, I think it's safe to say a lot of people in that part of the state appreciate the philanthropy that Walmart has done, invested in public works projects and all sorts of things. And so what it then did was it kind of took this, philanthropic architecture and this relationship it had with Northwest Arkansas and used that to say, part of giving back to our community is doing DEI work and making sure everyone feels safe and included. Isn't that great? Who could possibly object to that? Of course, what that means in practice is that they set up public school administrators with pretty radical DEI training institutes. And so eventually you have I think everyone in Bentonville Public Schools had to do some training on how white supremacy is built into every aspect of the United States, et cetera, et cetera. And in Fayetteville, in some ways, it was more extreme. They did this 5-year equity plan that was funded by Walmart and the Walton Foundation. And that equity plan literally involved teacher trainings where they said, we're going to teach you about the 6 tenets of critical race theory and how to apply them in the classroom. That's like a direct quote from the training. So it's pretty, you always hear people say, was critical race theory literally being taught in schools? Well, it is literally being taught in teacher trainings. They are using the words critical race theory and going through the 6 major tenets of that philosophical doctrine saying, yep, you should incorporate this into your teaching. So it's hard to get more brazen than this.
Recently, so Walmart put out a statement and said that this is inaccurately conflating actions taken by the school district and a grant made by the Walmart Foundation. But when you look at the FOIA documents, they want you to don't believe what you're seeing right there in front of you. That's not what's happening. But the FOIA documents actually show emails between those within the Walton Foundation and the Walmart Corporation helping coordinate and setting them up with initiatives. You mentioned that the company that Walmart uses for their social justice training.
Yeah, so I mean, there's kind of 2 different things going on. There's grants where Walmart can kind of plausibly say, well, I mean, we didn't know that you were going to use it on critical race theory. We just thought you'd use it on diversity and equity, right? We're not doing critical race theory. Okay, maybe there's some plausible deniability there, but then they also, the head of their DEI, I think her name is Candace Jones, literally reached out directly to the superintendent of Bentonville Public Schools and said, hey, we use this company, the Racial Equity Institute, for our diversity trainings. Want us to set up teacher training with the Racial Equity Institute? And then during the training, everyone gets a workbook that has the Walmart insignia on it. So at least that training, I think it's safe to say Walmart not only knew about, but completely endorsed all of its contents. And that training contained all the crazy stuff like perfectionism as white supremacy and what have you. It is true that some of these other trainings, it was more indirect, but I actually think the indirectness is part of the scandal here, right? What they do is they say, well, it wasn't us, it was just this other group that we ourselves bankroll that actually conducted the training. Like they did this all through something called the Ideals Institute in Fayetteville. And Fayetteville is technically part of the University of Arkansas. Oh, see, it's not Walmart. Well, except where does the money come from? The Walton Family
Right.
Foundation. Oh, okay. So, like, yeah, they can play these games about technicalities, but it's pretty clear that they have some idea of what's in the training and that they support it. Because if they didn't support it, they wouldn't be using these radical groups to subject all of their own staff to racial re-education camps.
You spoke to several school teachers here in Northwest Arkansas, and of course they were not named specifically because they were worried about repercussions in their job. But what was the sense, or what did you take away after talking with them? Is this something that they agree and want in the schools?
No, I mean, I think even look, granted, the sorts of people who are going to want to speak even on background for a story like this tend to be the people who are most charged up about the programming. So it's not a representative sample. But my sense is that even more moderate or liberal parents probably aren't super happy about what's going on, in part because it's not just a matter of what the teachers are learning or even what's in the curriculum. It's also a matter of what the discipline policies are. A big focus of this equity stuff is, oh, we have to get rid of disproportionate rates of discipline. So let's do restorative justice, which means that instead of disciplining the kids, you sit them down in a circle to talk about their feelings. And this is, anyone who thinks that's a caricature can read the documents themselves.
Right.
This is really what they say. In fact, they explicitly say, don't use the phrase, don't touch her, because that's a command. Instead say, I feel very uncomfortable with how you're treating your classmate right now. So you're literally banned from breaking up fights in the school, right? It's absurd.
Yeah.
And that's in like the Fayetteville disciplinary handbook. And my sense is that a lot of parents are very frustrated with this because their kids just want to learn and are sitting there quietly, and there will be one or two really disruptive students in class, and it's very, very hard to get them taken out of class because they're effectively not allowed to discipline anymore, except in all but the most serious cases. And even in the most serious cases, I guess they can be suspended for a few days, but I don't think they can even be expelled. So it's you don't have to be right wing at all to.
Yeah.
All you really have to have is just a kid in public schools who's struggling to learn, I think, to get
Right.
pretty frustrated with all of this.
Yeah, I know that you mentioned FOIA documents, you poured over those. What was your biggest takeaway? Was there anything that you were just shocked by? You couldn't believe that you were reading this and that this was here in public schools?
I mean, all of it was pretty bad. I would say the discipline stuff where they are literally discouraged from breaking up fights. And they, at one point, the discipline handbook says something like, to dispel any sense of hierarchy, the students and teachers should both sit on the floor during these restorative justice circle remediations. And of course, it's like, dispel any sense of hierarchy. There should be a sense of hierarchy in a public school. The
Right.
teachers, the students are not in charge. The teachers are, right? It just,
Yeah.
the entire foundations of this pedagogy are complete BS. And you don't even need to have a kid to see that they're complete BS. Anyone who has been a child or has a modicum of common sense can see that this is just absurd.
Yeah.
And of course, nobody voted on it, right? No, it's not like this is supported by most Arkansas families, but because a rich corporation and its associated philanthropic arms support it, it's now imposed on multiple counties in a state that voted by, I think, 28 points for Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the bigger, I mean, beyond just sort of the insane CRT stuff, I think the deeper point here is that this is the corporate usurpation of democracy.
Before I let you go, I want to talk about our new governor, Sarah Sanders, and then the Walton Foundation as a whole. This is not the first time that the Waltons have been involved in controversial issues like this. They have sponsored LGBTQ parades and events, and they released a statement in opposition when the SAFE Act passed in 2021, which prevents child mutilation and gender assignment surgeries. This third generation of Walton seems to be very different than the Sam Walton era that a lot of our Kansans knew. In light of what's happened with Bud Light or DeSantis pushing back against Disney, in your opinion, how do you see this playing out here in Arkansas? And is this a good move by the Walton Foundation, the Walton family, and Walmart Corporation to be involved in these ideological issues?
Well, the fact that there's a new governor of Arkansas who's less deferential to Walmart, and the fact that the SAFE Act and things have been passed over the objections of Walmart suggests to me that at the very least, their influence over politics is limited, especially on these culture war fights. And given that those evident limitations, it may not be the wisest thing in the world for them to antagonize the state's voters and their elected representatives. I mean, more broadly, though, look, clearly there can be serious backlash. I think the Bud Light thing does show that. But I don't really, I worry that sometimes some conservatives now are like, see, they fired their ad person at Bud Light, so it worked. We won a victory. I mean, okay, yeah. Like it's fired, but that's not.
It's more entrenched than that.
Yeah, I don't know how much that's really going to change the trajectory of this stuff. I do think it's telling that some corporate executives in the wake of the DeSantis Disney fight were saying, hey, we need to find a way to stay out of these issues.
Yeah.
I'm a little. It seems to me that the stuff is really deeply entrenched in corporations. And moreover, there's been for the past, 50 years, right, on the right, the general default has been, hey, corporations are good and we should give them more power. And look, corporations in many ways are good when it comes to economic growth and stuff. Like free market is important. But, at a certain point, if the entirety of your economic program reduces to just give powerful corporate actors more power, that's probably not good in an era when those corporate actors hate you and everything you stand for. So, to the extent, this isn't to endorse everything DeSantis is doing. I have mixed feelings about it. But to the extent there is a case for some of it, I think the case is basically, look, I mean, it's basically a left-wing argument. These are not democratically accountable agents. They have a huge amount of power. Do you really want corporations, democratically unaccountable corporations, ruling not just the economic life of your country, but also in many ways the social life? I think the answer for most people is no. Well, okay. I mean, that suggests that we should not just be letting these corporations go on autopilot and just let the chips fall where they may. I think it means there is some role, I'm not sure what it is, but some role for government in constraining the excesses of corporate power, especially when the corporate power is directed towards these kind of social justice governance goals that a lot of voters don't agree with.
Well, listen, we really appreciate this report that you all did. It's incredibly insightful. Thank you for joining Conduit. Anything else that you'd like to add?
No, just if you liked that report, read the Free Beacon and follow me on Twitter. I'm at Aaron Sibarium, all lowercase. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Aaron.